All right. Hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because today we're going to be talking about my Yieldmax ETFs exposed. Basically, we got three things we're going to talk about in this video. One, we're going to talk about which Yieldmax ETFs I own. I'm going to take you through all of them, going through my portfolio so you guys can see my overall returns on all my Yieldmax ETFs, exactly how many shares I have, and my total investments, if that sounds good. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to look at how much each of the Yieldmax ETFs are going to pay me. And what we're going to do is look off of the last dividend, and I'm going to add up all my monthly income. And then after all of that, I'm going to give you guys my honest truth on Yieldmax ETFs, as I've been investing within Yieldmax for over a year now. For example, Yieldmax, I held TSLY back in the day. I don't anymore. But a lot of these Yieldmax ETFs I've held for a very long time. And so I want to give you guys an update on what I think and my plan going forward for these ETFs. So if that does sound good, I'm going to zoom in here quickly. We're up to 8,504 subscribers, 88 subscribers in the past 28 days. Not too shabby, not too shabby. We're continuing to grow. Now, what I want to talk about is my Yieldmax ETF positions. So within my portfolio, we're actually doing pretty good. You can see we're up almost 14%, roughly 13.78%. Not too bad. Start here with Yieldmax, and they're actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to number them worst, best, worst to best, something like that. Okay, if I can even do it. Yieldmax, I'm down roughly, Yieldmax, I'm down roughly 25%. I hold 1,370 shares. My average share price on this is $17.07, and the current share price is $12.83. It got beaten down today, down 2.21%. So that obviously played into this, but all in all, I'm probably about break even on my my Yieldmax shares. And they currently pay a dividend distribution, which is on the lower side, 43%. You can see the very last distribution came in at 11 cents. Usually they were higher, about 18, 17 cents. But as we're seeing now, we're starting to see them kind of come down a little bit. So that is not too cool. But let's continue on. We have XYZY. I hold 817 shares, if I could do that right here, at an average share price of $13.55, currently down under $10 as well, beaten down quite a bit today at negative 2% on the day. It's roughly about $8,000 USD invested into XYZ. Moving on, our next position is PYPY. If we can find it, let's do it together. PYPY. Down almost 1% today, of 384 shares at an average share price of $14.90. And this was after averaging out during April, which was really the best time to buy. I'm still down about 22% on this position, as the symbol price sits at $11.53, roughly about $4,500 in that position. The next one, Babo. Babo, I hold 300 shares, average share price $17.68. Currently sitting at $14.75, roughly about $4,500 as well. My PYPY and Babo positions are roughly about the same size. MSTY, I hold 100 shares, down huge today, almost 7% down. I'm down 33, almost 34%. My average share price is $25. This is one that I may look to average down on. I have to do another review of MSTR, the underlying company, but MSTY is down to $16.62, roughly about $1,500. So my average, my cost basis for this is roughly about $2,500, and I'm down roughly about $1,000 on MSTY. Of course, it's paid out huge dividends, and those dividends had probably made me back more than 33%. But as of today, which is a huge down day, down 34%. So that's a big marker. Something to keep in mind as you're looking through this. CONY, down roughly 10%. I have 100 shares. At an average share price of $7.79, and currently we're sitting close to $7 flat. And I do have one final Yieldmax ETF to share with you guys, which is MSFO. I only hold 25 shares. It's the only Yieldmax ETF that I'm up on right now, and I only have about $500 in that, so it's really my smallest position. So now that we got all the position sizes out of the way, maybe you can compare to your own. Let's talk about how much each is going to pay me. The first one being Yieldmax. Yieldmax, because it's a weekly payer, I just gathered the last 4 dividends, which you would expect to see within a month. It came out to 60 cents roughly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go equals the last dividend multiplied by my number of shares, which will give us $827 as my monthly income. So one thing to keep in mind is as I'm holding Yieldmax, although I'm down roughly about 25%, which if we look at the numbers is roughly about $6,000, you have to understand that this ETF is also paying me roughly about $827 every single month. So it's a portion of return of capital, but at the same time, if the overall market increases, Yieldmax generally increases. And so in my opinion, I have to run the numbers once again, but I've definitely received more than $6,000 from my investment in Yieldmax. I've been holding it for over a year now. Next one. The next one that we're going to look at is XYZY. This is also a pretty big dividend for me. And the last dividend for XYZY came in at $67.85. So we're going to do that right now. 0.6785. And just like this last one, we're going to copy, paste, so it's nice and quick. And that, multiplying those two together, you can see, will produce me $554 in terms of income, which is not bad for 1 month's worth. Okay. We're going to move to the next. PYPY. For the last dividend of PYPY, currently paying a dividend yield of 30%. This is probably a very small dividend, what I would assume. Yep, PYPY was paying close to $50 prior. If we go all the way back, it was paying even as high as $1.61. Now only 27 cents for the last dividend. Let's add that in here. 0.2731 is what I saw. We're going to copy and paste. We are making $104. This is an extremely small dividend from PYPY. As you can see, the dividends do fluctuate pretty heavily. And if you have a decent amount of shares, like I do 384 shares, you could receive $104 1 month. Or if it's close to 66 cents, you could receive roughly about $250 the next month. So it's a little bit unstable, but it's something you can imagine when using a synthetic covered call ETF or any covered call ETF if they aren't some kind of like stable income ETF. Now we're moving on to Babo. Babo, when we look, paying a 65% yield currently, it had a pretty solid dividend as the last one, 75 cents or so. Let's put that in. 0.7544. Awesome. Same thing as the others. We're going to copy paste $262 from 300 shares of Babo. That is pretty good. Now let's move on to MSTY. MSTY paying an 86% dividend, which sounds ridiculous, but it is on the lower end of what MSTY has been paying in the past. The smallest dividend of what we've seen here recently from MSTY, roughly $1.18, what we're going to put. So $1.18. Copy and paste this in. Let's see what we get. $1.18 makes sense. We got 100 shares. CONY as well, 100 shares. So let's see what they paid in the past. 139% dividend yield. Wow. Obviously, they paid a pretty high dividend for the last one. We're going to call it 79 cents. 79.51, 0.7951. And soon enough, if you stick around, we're going to see exactly how much I'm making on a monthly basis. Oh, this we cannot round to 1. We must add some zeros in. Awesome. So for CONY, same thing. We're probably looking at $79.51. Absolutely. Now, will we make it over the $2,000 marker for this month? We have MSFO, which pays a modest dividend of 29.89%, which is still a huge dividend in all eyes. 41 cents is what we're looking at right there. So we're going to add that in, 41.39. And when we add everything up, my total monthly income is coming out to $1,920 for this month, going off of last month's dividend. You see, some dividends were high. XYZY was fairly high compared to recent months, and same with Babo. And some of them were low. For example, MSTY was lower, and PYPY was also much lower. So you can see here that owning Yieldmax ETFs, they fluctuate quite a bit. Now, when you look at my portfolio and you see all the Yieldmax ETFs in red here, you probably assume I've made poor decisions on when to buy these Yieldmax ETFs, but that's not true. Maybe you've seen Yieldmax on YouTube and it's very enticing because you see these high dividend yields. Maybe you're an investor yourself and you've been following my page for over a year because we've been making tons and tons of videos on Yieldmax. But really, this was my plan all along. And some people think it's crazy. Some people think it's a little bit ridiculous, but this is the way that I wanted to do it. I have 66,000 currently invested, and I'm currently taking out money from my portfolio. That's why it shows that my portfolio's down, but I'm up about 13% because I'm constantly taking out money. And it's because these Yieldmax ETFs, although deteriorating in terms of the capital, they are providing me cash which I can use for other projects, or I can use to, for example, down here, buy more companies and buy better companies. And the funny part is, all my ETFs or all my stocks that I own that aren't Yieldmax ETFs are in the positive. I just picked up a new one, which was Skyward Specialty Insurance Group. That is a new one that I'll be likely buying. SCHD is another one I picked up at a pretty, in my opinion, it's a high share price, but I just kind of got in because I wanted to move some money into SCHD. Helmerich & Payne, I'm up 10%. United Health, now I'm up 6%. Was down on that for a long time. Health and Tech, I'm up pretty good. So I did my best to absolutely find the best opportunities and the best times to buy Yieldmax ETFs like YMAX, like XYZY, PYPY, BABO. And even MSTY for a long time was in the positive. But just due to the fact that Yieldmax ETFs, they pay out such a high dividend percentage, for YMAX, in order to remain positive, it's got to return more than 43% in a year's time. And here's the thing, even if YMAX has a stellar year and it absolutely destroys and continues to rise, you're still likely going to be negative on your investment, because what YMAX will do is it will pay out higher dividend distributions if the share price increases. That's what these synthetic cover call strategies do. So in my opinion, I do think they're fantastic for cash flow. That's what they are intended for, and it's for the cash. And I do think that if you're reinvesting, it's actually extremely beneficial to hold Yieldmax ETFs, because I was able to grow my monthly income, just to kind of go over and show you guys, extremely fast. Look at this. I went from $1,000 this year to hitting $2,500 in the span of 3 months. I used some margin debt. I invested roughly about $16,000. So this wasn't a loan, but was able to boost my monthly income by almost $1,400 in a span of a few months. And that's possible with Yieldmax. And I think if you guys are potentially looking to replace your full-time income with cash flow, you can do that for the short term and long with Yieldmax ETFs, but you have to have some kind of stable foundation. And that's what I'm currently building now. I have the cash flow, which is now allowing me the opportunity to invest in other startups like health and tech, like United Health, which is a fantastic, okay, I don't want to say fantastic because it's not financial advice, but it's a well-positioned, in my opinion, stable long-term company with a lot of cash flow. Same thing with Helmerich & Payne, although a lot smaller. So this is an exciting opportunity because now we're getting more and more cash that we don't have to continuously reinvest from our job. We can now use our Yieldmax ETFs to provide that cash and find awesome undervalued positions, which we can then look to get a really good return off of. So that's my goal. That's what I think of Yieldmax. I think they're fantastic for cash flow. For if you're the type of person who gets afraid when your stocks are showing negative, they're probably not for you. If you do want cash, they're fantastic for generating cash flow, but you have to understand that they do erode. And what I found, to kind of sum this all up, was, for example, XYZY. If you were to have invested in the underlying, which was XYZ, which is square or block, you would have done better than if you bought XYZY. And if you were to buy PayPal, you would have done better buying PayPal than PYPY. But Yieldmax ETFs, they're for cash flow. That's what they provide. And unfortunately, you sacrifice some return buying Babo versus buying Alibaba. At the end of the day, they provide cash flow, and that is some kind of safety net for myself. Let's say if I was to quit my job, then at least I have some kind of cash flow coming in. Although it's only, in my opinion, for the short term, I don't think Yieldmax is a long-term solution, but this is what I'm currently doing, and I'm going to continue to share my journey. And I really appreciate you guys letting me know your thoughts, anything good, anything bad. I'm always here to talk. It's all good. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for looking at how much I'm going to be making in terms of income from my Yieldmax ETFs. Turns out to be $1,920. So not too bad. We're going to keep this rolling, and that's after I did actually do a lot of sells in my portfolio. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please do take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.